The climate crisis is here. Time's slipping away to stop the worst effects of global warming, and we need solutions. Hosted by me, Molly Wood, How We Survive dives deep into the economics, the tech, and the human stories behind those solutions. From billionaires trying to monopolize lithium mines to business rivalries so fierce that one CEO was dragged off a plane by federal authorities. How We Survive, following the money to the end of the world because our survival might depend on it. Listen on Odyssey and everywhere you get your podcasts.
There was stories of these girls that would leave his house and they would have to swim out in the lake and get away from them. He has a secret room in his house. He put me in there, she said. I don't want anybody to die anymore. I don't want anybody else to die. I'm looking for Ashley.
Season 3 of Up and Vanished is available right now. Listen for free on Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
America faces a choice. This is Battleground America. Here's Tara Servatius.
America is one big dysfunctional family. If you've ever known a dysfunctional family, they talk about everything under the sun. That's how they fool you into thinking everything's okay. That is, they talk about everything but what they really need to talk about. What's really important. The problems simmering right underneath the surface. We're just like that now in America. The biggest stories of the week barely ever get coverage anymore. The ones that are most important, that would tell you the truth about where this country is headed, are buried. But they know. And you can tell that by what they do. And most importantly, as I so often point out on this podcast and my show, what they don't say. And what they're doing right now. Major American corporations are building quickly, amazingly, actually how quickly, a parallel financial system. They will not tell you this. They'll never publicly acknowledge even the need for it. But they're working like busy beavers to get it in place in time for the dollar's collapse. Which, if it succeeds, might not be as bad as I even thought a year ago. It's fascinating to watch what's going on and how it's going to change America's place in the world and America's place at the center of the financial world. It's probably the biggest financial story of our time. And inside America's biggest corporations, even those corporations whose CEOs and management raise money overwhelmingly for Democrats, they're preparing for that collapse. Here's how you know. I do it every day because it's so fascinating to watch. I put the terms cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, sometimes Ethereum, and adoption, platform, and companies in, and you'll see it. What are you watching? America's companies and, folks, world countries. There are countries adopting cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. Google that as legal means of tender in preparation for the destruction of the dollar. The U.S. dollar, which is currently the world's premier exchange currency. Nothing touches it. Go back 2 years and you'll find almost nothing on cryptocurrency adoption in mainstream media, news, and business publications. Companies just weren't doing it. There was no reason to. Cryptocurrency was kind of the bailiwick of libertarian-leaning young fund managers and financial YouTube stars. It's an entirely online currency. No country owns it or controls it. Well, yet. And it's hobbled along for years. Yes, making significant gains if you were a super early adopter, but never really catching on with society as a whole. In fact, scorned by hedge fund managers, ETFs, and the like. That's because it's decentralized. No one country controls it, so no banking system can lobby to get their greedy little hands on it. And America's currency, the dollar, is the currency of the world. But that is about to change, and that will change everything. So put it into Google. Crypto adoption, Bitcoin exchange. It'll come up in a lot of different ways. And you'll see companies, even like Bank of America, opening crypto desks. You'll see over the last year, hundreds to thousands of companies. I can't even keep up with the announcements anymore. They first hire a crypto consultant or analyst, and then especially if they sell online in retail, they go to crypto payment adoption. It's as if they expect everybody to transfer over to crypto quickly and have a need to buy, I don't know, Halloween lights, a hamburger, clothes with crypto. That's because it could happen any moment. Because they are watching, we are watching. The financial analysts inside of these big companies, again, many of whom donate to Democrats, they are watching Congress loot the Treasury and destroy the dollar. It's a subject of endless fascination to me whether they're doing this on purpose to destroy the country by printing and spending so much that the dollar becomes meaningless and people drop it as a reserve currency. That is a currency in which business deals are conducted. Because it's so strong, if you were doing an international, well, it used to be an international business deal, selling stuff, buying oil, you would convert into dollars and then do the deal. That artificially inflated the value of the dollar until Congress began printing so many that it was dropping before their eyes. Here's the eye-catching stat driving all of this. It is the one you will never catch America's corporate CEOs ever speaking of. It is the one you'll never hear discussed on Squawk Box or on CNBC or on CNN Business. But that doesn't make it any less real or any less staggering. It is the one stat everybody's reacting to by adopting Bitcoin buying, selling, and trading platforms. Or it could be crypto or it could be both. It's this stat. It staggered me the first time I saw it. Before COVID, the United States of America owed $17 trillion. That was way back in 2019. Today, we owe just shy of $29 trillion. Yep, we did that in less than 2 years. 10 years from now, if just the bare minimum basic outlines of the Biden agenda are adopted, including the $1.5 trillion and $3.5 trillion plans, we'll be looking at, you might want to sit down, a $44 trillion debt.
The climate crisis is here. Time slipping away to stop the worst effects of global warming, and we need solutions. Hosted by me, Molly Wood, How We Survive dives deep into the economics, the tech, and the human stories behind those solutions. From billionaires trying to monopolize lithium mines to business rivalries so fierce that one CEO was dragged off a plane by federal authorities. How We Survive, following the money to the end of the world because our survival might depend on it. Listen on Odyssey and everywhere you get your podcasts.
There was stories of these girls that would leave his house and they would have to swim out in the lake and get away from them. He has this secret room in his house. He put me in there, she said. I don't want anybody to die anymore. I don't want anybody else to die. I'm looking for Ashley.
Season 3 of Up and Vanished is available right now. Listen for free on Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This, in third world countries, is what you call the looting phase of the coup. I'm not being sarcastic. They're literally looting. Normally, whatever political group uses the military to take over one of these countries sets them loose as a sort of reward. And they run through the streets and the banks. They empty the coffers of the businesses, of the treasury, and they spread it among themselves. Otherwise, why would you get the troops to risk the coup? You got to give them a reward. We've been doing this since ancient times, except now you don't have to smash the windows. You loot the treasury. And that's what the Democrats and some Republicans with them are doing. There's not much left in the treasury but a stack of IOUs. Think about it this way. Suppose, and I actually had a friend like this once, you had a person who was going bankrupt. She had maxed out a bunch of credit cards. She couldn't pay for all of it. They owed too much. They had all this debt. She had like $20,000 left on one line of credit. And what was she going to do before she declared bankruptcy? And this was back before they changed the bankruptcy law, so it was easier to do then. She was going to go spend it, because why would you leave $20,000 out there? You got to go get it. And she did, right before she filed for bankruptcy, knowing full well she intended to file for bankruptcy. That's what Congress is doing right now. All that money that you're seeing them spend, here's what they do. And I've explained this before on Battleground. They put treasury bonds out, and some people buy them with actual money. It's a promise by our treasury to pay them back so they can get cash. But there aren't enough people on earth to buy all the treasury bonds we have to sell to spend trillions of dollars a year. So the excess treasury bonds that there's no buyers for, well, we print fake dollars and we buy them up. That makes the value of every dollar worth less and less and less. We recently broke all-time printing and borrowing records for all of human history. Printing and borrowing $1 trillion in just 4 months. That's the fastest rate on record. And it's why nobody was talking about inflation in January. But by April and May, everybody was, as the prices at the furniture store and the grocery store escalated. That's because Congress's printer, its press, was printing away, stealing the value of your dollars from you faster than you could earn them or spend them. That's why, and we did that to finance the $2 trillion Biden plan. That's why the prices at the grocery store, it was the speed of it that we were dumping dollars into the world economy. That's why inflation shot up this year. And you were able to see that so clearly in the prices at the grocery store all of a sudden. So from $17 trillion owed to $29 trillion in less than 2 years. The world saw it. The inside of Bank Economic Forecasting Division saw it. Everybody saw it. And they freaked. Not publicly, but they all came to the same conclusion. The dollar would stagger and fall. This is being done deliberately by Congress, like a runaway train, and no one will stop them. There's a longstanding belief, based on a significant amount of financial history, that when what a country owes goes beyond the total value of its economy, hyperinflation will result, and it will be unstoppable. We hit that last year. Keep in mind, in 2019, we owed $17 trillion, and our whole economy was $20 trillion. We now owe $29 trillion. And so the belief is, and with finance, belief is self-fulfilling prophecy. People believe it, they'll act accordingly and get out of the dollar. Well, now we owe an economy and a half, essentially. And right around the time we hit that $20 trillion mark, the announcements began quietly, coming out of major corporations. They were setting up crypto exchanges. Hedge fund managers, 2 major investors, like Ray Dalio and Carl Icahn, who just last year, before we hit the $20 trillion, sneered at crypto, began investing in it and adopting it. ETFs are even looking at it now, if not openly adopting it. Why? Because these people have large shares of value, and they can't buy enough gold bars to put it into. They need something else. And until now, there was nothing else. My great-grandfather, he was a shipbuilder in Weimar, Germany, and their currency collapsed too, because up until now, all currencies have been from governments. And so he would tell my father when he was a kid how he would finish up his work for the day, and as tired as he was, he'd have to load the payment into a wheelbarrow and take it into town to turn it into goods fast before its value changed, usually plummeting. My grandfather was trying to protect his store of value. Well, ETFs, banks, hedge funds are doing the same. They have huge stores of value. And what they're doing is building systems that will let people move it quickly. There's only one reason you do that. You're anticipating some sort of broad damage to the dollar and a flight from it. And even if you're just connected to the stock market, a decline in the dollar is going to hit you hard. You have to have a way to pull large amounts of value out of markets and move them around to keep a collapse from happening. At the same time, if you're a real retailer, you need your small customers who might spend $10, $15, $20, $30 with you to be able to quickly move their money and continue the purchases uninterrupted. That's why you're seeing businesses that sell everything from food to movie tickets now discussing cryptocurrency payment options. Before cryptocurrency, we had no way on earth to do that. Again, all currencies were created, maintained, and ultimately blown up in most cases by governments, by overprinting. This is new. And in a way, it's kind of brilliant. It's not that these financial institutions think cryptocurrency is a great thing. They're actually terrified of it for good reason. It's incredibly volatile. Look at a price chart for just the last year. It has doubled and halved in value. It's terrifying. So what does it tell you that they're all diving into it, or at least building exchange platforms, when they had absolutely no interest in it before? That the dollar they believe is actually more volatile and beginning to wobble.
There was stories of these girls that would leave his house and they would have to swim out in the lake and get away from them. He has this secret room in his house. He put me in there, she said. I don't want anybody to die anymore. I don't want anybody else to die. I'm looking for Ashley.
Season 3 of Up and Vanished is available right now. Listen for free on Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The climate crisis is here. Time slipping away to stop the worst effects of global warming, and we need solutions. Hosted by me, Molly Wood, How We Survive dives deep into the economics, the tech, and the human stories behind those solutions. From billionaires trying to monopolize lithium mines to business rivalries so fierce that one CEO was dragged off a plane by federal authorities. How We Survive, following the money to the end of the world because our survival might depend on it. Listen on Odyssey and everywhere you get your podcasts.
As recently as a year and a half ago, I believed, we all thought, that the exchange currency, the petrodollar, once America's was no longer the exchange currency because the dollar was too unstable, that it would default to the yuan, the second largest economy's currency. And that probably would have happened without crypto. But in their panic, our financial elites are turning to that instead. They won't let you know they're panicking, but you can tell from their press releases. They're all adopting something that they all mocked 5 and even 3 years ago because they have nowhere else to go as Congress doubles down on bankrupting the country. What they're anticipating is a mass movement of value at all levels of society, from the lowest to the highest financially, quickly or relatively quickly into cryptocurrency as Congress cripples the dollar. The speed of adoption is accelerating. You can tell by the announcements every day. This doesn't mean this crash of the dollar is inevitable. It just means it's inevitable enough they believe that they have to be prepared for it. And if you've noticed the incredibly rapid speed of adoption, and again, some of these investors are tiptoeing into the investments, but mainly it's companies building exchanges or preparing to, or just doing the legwork by hiring analysts who can help them get on these platforms and exchange. What's really driving this over the last month is the death of the petrodollar. That hasn't been fully felt yet. The media is barely talking about it because it's a huge deal. And Americans might panic if they understood how unstable the dollar is about to become. Petrodollars basically originated back in the 1970s when Nixon and Kissinger cut a deal with the Saudis that we would essentially act as their army. We would advance their interest around the Middle East, which is why we're always there for no apparent reason. Killing people. Yep, it's for the Saudis. We act as their army, and they use their sway at OPEC to mandate that all oil deals are done in dollars. In other words, you switch your currency into dollars, and then you purchase oil. That's artificially propped the dollar up for many years. Its value is essentially fake because in the real market, this switch wouldn't occur, not at the rate it does. And it's about to end because Russia just stole our petrodollar. They went in as Joe Biden betrayed all our allies in Afghanistan and pointed to it and said to the Saudis, "You think you can trust this guy?" The Saudis said, "Oh, heck no," and cut the deal with Russia. And so now OPEC oil deals will begin to be done. It hasn't happened yet in either rubles, euros, or yuan. It'll be split roughly 3 ways. Whatever the case, they just took our printing press. You can't print a lot of money if you don't have a petrodollar. This is why no one prints like we do. Congress is pretending that Russia didn't just steal the printing press, but our companies know better. The really cool thing about it, though, is this time, as our currency crashes and burns, as so many other world currencies have in the past, I'm wondering if it might not be as bad as it would have been. Maybe it won't be that bad at all if we could all quickly move our stores of value into cryptocurrency, a luxury my Weimar Republic great-grandfather didn't have, a luxury they didn't have in recent years from Zimbabwe to Venezuela. Whatever the case, should the dollar finally crash and burn, nobody knows what'll do it. It'll be the final straw on the camel's back. It might even take as little as the passage of the $1.5 trillion Republican and Democrat bipartisan spending plan. Or maybe it'll take a bigger straw, like the $3.5 trillion on top of it. Either way, they seem committed to spending an ungodly amount of money and printing it, devaluing every dollar you have every day as the printing press runs. And those dollars will eventually be rejected wholesale by the world economic community. The move by Russia, China, and the European Union to steal the printing press actually was one of desperation. For over 20 years, the Russians and the Chinese have been telling us they wanted to crush the petrodollar and replace it with their own currency. They've been sneaking toward that for a while. The move with Saudi Arabia was actually a panic move because they missed their time. Had it moved to rubles and yuan, say, 5 years ago, there might not have been the demand there is now for crypto. They're too late to the game. In fact, I think they might have already missed it. What does this mean for you? Diversify. It's good to have some gold and silver, but you'll notice the price of that taking a pounding. That's crypto too, as so many people are choosing it now over gold and silver. I wouldn't invest in crypto as an investment. It's still wildly volatile. But would I have some as a hedge? You bet. And I do. And I'm not even wild about it. In fact, it scares me. It just scares me more not to have it. So, what does all this mean? It means if you want to follow the historic decline of the dollar, you can. Do it every morning like I do. When I get up, I start Googling to see who has adopted the latest crypto exchange platform or what investment firm is either investing in it, trading it, or has hired a team to explore doing so. You're watching the decline of the dollar, and the dollar gave the U.S. the economic supremacy it has in the world. That, if you watch the announcements, is something that American companies and companies the world over think is about to end.
Battleground America with Tara Servatius. Please subscribe on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Share with friends, family, and other free thinkers. Thanks for listening.
Keeping up with the flood of news every single day can be quite stressful. There is climate change happening. There's the pandemic, labor movements, Nicki Minaj's cousin's friend. Hi, I am Gideon Resnick, host of Crooked Media's What a Day. Each week, Travell Anderson, Priyanka Arabindi, Josie Duffy Rice, and I are going to break down the biggest news stories of the day in a way that hopefully doesn't always make you want to cry. New episodes of What a Day drop every weekday at 5 a.m. Eastern. Listen on Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The climate crisis is here. Time's slipping away to stop the worst effects of global warming, and we need solutions. Hosted by me, Molly Wood, How We Survive dives deep into the economics, the tech, and the human stories behind those solutions. From billionaires trying to monopolize lithium mines to business rivalries so fierce that one CEO was dragged off a plane by federal authorities. How We Survive, following the money to the end of the world because our survival might depend on it. Listen on Odyssey and everywhere you get your podcasts.
There was stories of these girls that would leave his house and they would have to swim out in the lake and get away from them. He has a secret room in his house. He put me in there, she said. I don't want anybody to die anymore. I don't want anybody else to die. I'm looking for Ashley.
Season 3 of Up and Vanished is available right now. Listen for free on Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.